All right, I'm here with Ellie. Ellie, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Hi, so my name is Ellie Geoffroy. I've been working in the vacation rental space for about 15 years. Started out working in operations with Wyndham Vacation Rentals and then joined the Vacasa M&A team where I negotiated on their behalf to acquire other companies. And then most recently went out on my own and created PGI Advisors, where I help clients on both the buy, sell side if they want to buy or sell in the vacation rental industry.
So tell us about your time at Vacasa.
My time at Vacasa was awesome. I was there for 8 years. We were the largest acquirer in the vacation rental space at the time, and so we were very busy. We acquired about 30 firms a year. So it was a great time, had a lot of fun, and learned pretty much everything I know about M&A.
So speaking of M&A, a lot of your potential clients and others would like to know what the process is from discovery to close.
Sure, so the process is typically 3 to 6 months long, depending on the size of your company, complexities, do you have several lines of businesses, and that kind of thing. The first thing I try to do is work with my clients to set expectations of, what they can expect from the process, but also in terms of the valuation of the business, what the business would sell for today, which might be very different than what it would have sold for in the past or whatever. What types of buyers, today's buyers are very specific about what market they want to be in, what price, what structure. So I really try to educate my clients about that. And then from there, once we have offers on the business, then you start the diligence process. My clients can typically expect to go through financial diligence, operational diligence, legal diligence. So we walk through some of that together. The financial diligence is certainly the most in-depth and can be the most frustrating. It's uncomfortable at times because you are opening up your business to show all the inner workings, including the financials, to someone, before you close. And sometimes these are competitors. And so it can be a very tough process to get through. But once you've gotten through the diligence process, then, you can move on to drafting the legal documents and you can set a closing date. So that's generally, there's a lot more that goes into it, but generally that's the process.
Oh yeah, I love talking about due diligence actually because of the just the different ways things can go sideways, and it's probably not the best part of that process from your perspective because of the uncertainties. But I guess if you could speak on one of the key steps that you make sure that the buy side client of yours does that is not usual or typical. What is something that is kind of unusual that you try to remind a buy side client to do?
I think the most obvious and the simplest, and sometimes the thing that is the most overlooked, believe it or not, is the actual contracts. The actual contracts have to be there. So many people don't realize the main asset that you're selling, whether it's an asset purchase or a stock purchase, is the contracts themselves. So you need to have those. You need to have those in order. Hopefully an electronic document, but if electronic folder or something, but if not, have them in a file somewhere so you can access them. It's important to make sure that, the taxes are up to date. So getting that tax clearance letter, depending on what state you're in, just making sure that there are no liens on the business or the contracts that you're buying. So those are the most important things, but there are a lot of others as well.
We can jump into a little bit of valuation. I know you get that a lot. Hey, what is my business worth?
Yeah.
Or, what kind of price is this? Is this fair? So how do you walk your client through the valuation process?
Yeah, good question. So every market is pretty specific in terms of valuation. So, each market will have a typical EBITDA multiple that they bring. Markets that are more year-round markets that have a longer seasonality typically bring a higher EBITDA for obvious reasons. So the average in today's industry is 3 to 5 times, but there are, lots of companies that are trading at higher, 6 to 9 or even 10. It just depends on the size of the company, how long they've been around, the longevity, the branding, how well known is the brand in the market. And then frankly, sometimes it just depends on, how sought after the business is in terms of the buyer. So if the buyer, if this is their entry into a market and they've never been in that market before, they may be a lot more willing to pay a higher multiple than, other buyers. So that's important.
Right. And what do you look at in terms of the bottom line? Is it EBITDA, adjusted EBITDA, or seller discretionary earnings?
Yes, it's EBITDA. It's always EBITDA. But for smaller companies, sometimes there's less focus on the P&L and more focus on, what the homes are bringing in and average rents and fees. And so for smaller portfolios, if you're a company that maybe wants to acquire another portfolio and you want to do a fold-in, that's a good way to look at it. Look at doing it as a percentage of what the home is bringing in revenue. So with smaller companies, there can be more discrepancies when you try to apply a value on the P&L, on the profit.
Right, and by discrepancy, I'm sure you mean, difference between what the buyer views that line item and the seller.
Right.
As far as, the kinds of acquisitions or the kinds of deals, are these typically turnkey type deals or value add? I guess, pointed question, are you seeing any interest in from buyers in acquiring value add type deals where they may be able to leverage something that they know that the seller may not be doing?
Yes, I think for the larger companies, those are being acquired by people that really are looking for more of a plug and play. So the company's established, employees have been there a long time, they're happy, there's good branding, it's more of a plug and play. For the smaller asset purchases, typically what I'm seeing is those are more fold-ins for larger operators. So they're already existing in the market, they're doing really well, they have good people, the employees are solid, they're doing a great job, and so they're like, hey, we're doing good, let's add more. And so that's more of a value add situation.
Wonderful. Ellie, as a woman in the vacation rental space, let us know the ins and outs. How do you go about being so successful, and what kind of hurdles are you facing?
I don't really think being a woman makes me any different. I think that my experience and my achievements, I guess, speak for themselves. I don't think it's made any difference in terms of the work that I do or even, the way that I'm treated. I work in an industry that is it's a people business and it's a relationship business, and typically there's very good people in this industry, and so I've had I have nothing negative to say about that. But I will say that I am likely more patient and compassionate with buyers and sellers than maybe my male counterparts at times, but I don't really know that. There are some males in this industry that do what I do that I think are very compassionate and wonderful people, and so they're probably patient as well, and maybe more patient than me. I don't know. I think it's important to understand where the buyer or the seller is coming from and understand that this is likely the first business they've ever sold or the first business they've ever bought. It's a very emotional process. And so, whether you're a man or a woman, I think you have to be able to get down on that level and understand what they're feeling at that moment. And, this is a hand-holding process. You have to hold their hand through the whole thing. And that's why we're here.
Love it. What excites you for 2025?
It's exciting to see all the changes in the industry. When I just think about just 5 years ago and then how things are being done today. It's like there's so many changes and things are evolving so much. And so all that's exciting. I don't, you know, it's always fresh and new. But for me personally, it's the relationships that I'm gonna make. So again, it's a people business. I absolutely love working with people. I have friendships and bonds that I've created in doing this that I think I will have the rest of my life. And so if I can just get more of those, I will be happy.
Amazing. Ellie, you're awesome. That was great. Thanks for joining us. And, you know, that's it. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.